Let's speak about Britain's duty with John Rees from the online magazine Counterfire, who believes Britain should help Ireland out, and Ruth Dudley Edwards, Dublin-born historian and author who thinks that we shouldn't, both joining me in the studio. Ruth, you don't think this is the time for generosity?
I think this is a joke. It has to be a joke. We haven't got any money in Britain anyway.
We've got 60 million people paying tax. Well, no, not that many, but a lot of people and a big economy.
Well, I'm not quite sure what the suggestion is. I mean, do we set up soup kitchens on the border or something between Northern Ireland and the Republic? Look, the Republic is a grown-up nation. It's been independent for 90 years. I can think of nothing more patronising than the old colonial master coming along and saying, let's help you to pull out of this, you poor, unfortunate, inefficient people.
John?
Well, I don't think that a internationally coordinated reflation package is an error. No, I mean, the Governor of the Bank of England said yesterday that there's a danger of currency wars, of countries competing against each other to dump each other in an international crisis. So whether it's with Ireland or more broadly, I think that would be a far more sensible response to the recession than a beggar their neighbour.
But this is about Britain helping Ireland directly. It's not about anything that other nations might do. It's about recognition that once they go international with it, then it truly is a disaster.
Well, I think Britain has some responsibility towards Ireland. It's the first and last colony of the British Empire. Tremendous damage was done to Ireland during that period. Its economy was stifled during that period. At the time of partition, of course, the most prosperous, industrially developed parts were kept within the UK. So there is a special responsibility there as well, yes.
Ruth?
I really do find the tone extraordinarily patronising. The Irish have been in charge of their 26 counties for 90 years, and they have done some good things and they've done some terrible things. And latterly, they have fallen prey to their own profligacy, greed and incompetence. And they've got to deal with it. And sure, there will be international arrangements. They are in the Eurozone, though I doubt if the Germans are going to bail out the Irish as well as the Greeks and the Portuguese and the Spaniards when that comes. I don't know what's going to happen. But the notion that
the thought is that they will send a message by making it so difficult for Ireland that no one else will want to borrow any more money. Well, and that's where we come in.
That's what the markets are doing. But I mean, we're on the position that the notion of bailing out a country which still pays its public servants more than any other country in Europe, because during the good days, the welfare benefits doubled, the public sector salaries doubled. They're extraordinarily well paid. There was a period when the Prime Minister was paid more than the American President.
John, it's a country that's brought this on itself.
Well, there's no doubt that some people had it very, very good during the boom indeed, in particular the bankers in Ireland as in this country. But to say that the mass of the population was suddenly on a kind of, enormous binge from which all of them... No, that isn't true of most Irish people in the same way that it isn't true of most people in this country.
John, the welfare benefits are almost twice what they are here.
And good. And I'm very glad...
And they couldn't afford it.
Well, you say they couldn't afford it, but they can afford to pay the bankers, just as in this country, billions of pounds are now going into the pockets of the bankers.
We don't need to fight over that, because I think the Irish have completely mishandled the banking crisis. I think the banks were too big to save.
And this was part of the whole Celtic Tiger expansion. It wasn't an equitable expansion where everybody benefited. It was a bonanza for the rich, and in which quite a lot of the Irish population didn't do that well at all.
They did pretty well. And there was a mass irresponsibility about the whole thing. They elect the politicians, the people elect the politicians they elected were the ones who spent. That's what they want.
But Ruth, doesn't Britain owe Ireland some kind of recompense for our behaviour during the potato famine?
Oh, for heaven's sake, the potato famine was in the 1840s. When do we get over these things? I mean, that's preposterous. The only people who talk about that now are sort of crazed victim-minded
I bet John agrees with that.
Well, the point is this. You either draw some experience from history or you keep repeating it. And the truth of the matter is, this is not just an attitude towards Ireland. If you think, oh, well, let's not talk about colonialism, let's not talk about that, that's all so far in the past, except that in Afghanistan, we're now in our fourth invasion, 1838, 1878, 1919, and now again. So you do have to draw some experience from the colonial period and make some attempt to say, no, we're not repeating that, and perhaps we should actually consider some of the damage done.
The Irish have had for a long time an inferiority complex about the British. They do not want to be patronised. They want to feel that they are equal.
No, they should have solidarity, not being patronised.
But Ruth, you say the country's been there for 90 years, and it's a grown-up country. Actually, 90 years in a country's history is a blink of an eye, isn't it? It's a country that's been around for 90 years is still a toddler, effectively.
Well, it is, except it had things were not at all bad before partition, as it happens. There was a prosperous country. There was a very large Catholic middle class. There were a lot of Irish people involved in running it. It isn't as if it had been oppressed and held down.
But it is
until
still
90
partitioned. There is still a part of the island of Ireland which is still under the control of the British government. And very many people, Ruth, south of the border as well as north of the border, think that that's wrong.
They don't, John. They wouldn't touch it now. They haven't wanted the north for years.
Sinn Féin gets some very good votes in the south of Ireland these days.
Sinn Féin was almost annihilated in the last election.
No, but it has built a base since the Northern Ireland Agreement in the south electorally.
Very small. It did extremely badly the last election, John. You're being carried away by Sinn Féin rhetoric.
And the attitude towards partition is not restricted in the south to the supporters of Sinn Féin.
Northern Ireland remains in the UK because the majority of people in Northern Ireland wish to be in the UK, and there's nothing to be done about it. And even Sinn Féin have signed up to the
Well, actually, that isn't even the view. That isn't even the view of the government in the north or the south, who do think there are things that can be done about it. But the reason why a majority of people in the north want to be part of the United Kingdom is because, as you know, when partition came along, it's referred to as Ulster. It wasn't even Ulster that was part of it. It was 6 counties, not 9. So there was a structured majority deliberately created in the north, in the most industrial areas, with the shipyards, that's wanted to stay in Britain. Now, the British are very good at this. They always go and divide and rule. This is what they did in India. This is what they did in Ireland.
The British don't want Northern Ireland. They're stuck with it.
Not now, but they have done for a very long time.
We've wandered a little bit, but not that much. The idea is that Britain has a moral duty, and because of the north, as well as the potato famine and everything else, and being an older country, to help out Ireland, which is facing bankruptcy. Thank you very much indeed, John Rees from Counterfire online magazine, and Ruth Dudley Edwards, Dublin-born historian and author.
It's one massive show.